Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs Podcast. We're on season 5, episode number 49 tonight. Tonight's a songs edition. Today is October 7th, 2024. Andy, we got a special guest joining us for our songs edition, and
Yes,
we've been
we do.
looking forward to this. So, Andy, go ahead and introduce our special guest.
We got Jay Ernest with us today. A little bit on his bio, off some information. American singer songwriter from here in Minnesota, Minneapolis area. Jay Ernest, lead of the Johnny Cash tribute show called Church of Cash. Most recently, he started doing some solo stuff. Jay, writing with David Ray, who people might know. He's worked with Jelly Roll and others down there. Midwest Country Music Association Best Tribute in 21 and 2019. Minnesota Music Hall of Fame 21, and the co-wrote and starring as Johnny Cash production in Folsom Prism Experience. Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Thanks, Dan and Andy. I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
Seems like you keep yourself busy here with enough stuff. We'll kind of go. First of all, we'll start with your Church of Cash stuff. That show I've seen, I saw that out at Chanhassen Dinner Theater this last winter when you were there. Sure. That was the thing I've always wanted to kind of catch you guys, miss you. First of all, how'd you come with the name Church of Cash for the tribute show?
I thought, when people gather to see a show, and before I named it Church of Cash, I had a few gigs before I was kind of really came up with the name. And I thought, these people are all gathered here and we're all listening to the songs, we're singing along, we're listening to stories, we're celebrating. I don't want this to be blasphemous or anything, but I thought it's kind of like church in a way that there is a congregation. There are people that are like-minded, that they want to celebrate Johnny Cash. And I thought Church of Cash kind of really wraps that up. It's not about me as the musician. It's not about us as a band. It's about Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. It's about his music and how his music inspired a lot of folks. I know for myself, Johnny Cash lives somewhere real deep in the heart, and I know there's a lot of other folks that feel the same way. It's like as soon as he's there, he's not going away. It's not like you fall out of love with Johnny Cash. He's always there with you. And I thought, well, like without sounding blasphemous, he's that guy that we want to celebrate. And as the band comes together and the audience comes together, we can celebrate his music together.
I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't like at least one Johnny Cash song. I mean, everybody likes at least one of his songs. Mm-hmm. I know growing up, my folks listened to Johnny Cash. I grew up on the old school country, the Roger Whittaker, the Oak Ridge Boys, Statler Brothers, Johnny Cash, that stuff. I remember watching Johnny and Hee Haw as a kid growing up. So I saw both sides of him, although I saw him after he cleaned up. Now, I've seen the movies and done history since. Heard about the bad boy, Johnny Cash. When did you fall in love with Johnny Cash? When you were younger, as you got older? When did you fall in love with his music?
I think it was always around when I was a kid. My dad was a huge Johnny Cash fan. I grew up outside of New Ulm, Minnesota.
Okay.
And grew up a farm boy. So it was always on the 8-track, in the garage or on the tape player in the tractor. It was just always going. And, I know I liked him, but when you're young, it was on the radio and it was just a part of life. And, I think I grew up, heavy metal and punk rock and that kind of thing. And I don't think he was really part of my reality in those years, but it was later on when right before I started Church of Cash, I was living in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was touring with a band called Go Jimmy Go, and I've been on the road with those guys for 4 years at that point. So 2007 to 2010-ish. And with that band, I was a bass player. And that band was more of like reggae meets soul. It's a totally different scene that this Johnny Cash thing. But I've been known as internationally as a bass player, and I've done that for many, many years. And with this band, Go Jimmy Go, from Hawaii, I toured China and Japan and all over Europe, and I had a wonderful time with them and did a couple of records, and it was very fulfilling. And it actually got nominated for a Nohuku Award, which is Hawaii's awards. And a lot of fun with them, especially the great touring. But when we got back to the island, you could only play with that band really once every 3-4 months. It's a small island in the end. Right. So I fashioned myself a musician more than a scenester, if you will. I have to play music or I start shriveling up. And I found an Irish bar in Chinatown in downtown Honolulu. And from there, I was just the acoustic guy in the corner, like you see at many bars across the U.S. 4-hour banger. You're just playing songs, whatever you wanted to do. I played Men at Work. I played Irish music, country. But every time I played Johnny Cash, people put on their beers and they said, you sound like Johnny Cash when you sing. And I thought, wow, that's a great compliment because, Johnny Cash's voice is just so recognizable and so resonant and beautiful and warm. I went home that night. I said, okay, cool. If my voice sounds like Johnny Cash, I'm going to learn a bunch of Johnny Cash songs. Well, I quickly realized I know all these songs. I grew up with these songs since I was a little boy. My dad was always playing them. So I just briefly had to scan over the lyrics and get them back in the old head. And the next show I did, I probably did a dozen. And people really responded to it. And it was not long after that I put the band together, at least the Honolulu version of the band. That would have been in 2009.
The whole subliminal learning all those years, those playing and going.
Yeah. Osmosis just drips right in the head.
That's right. So then you start there. Then after that, you moved back here to Minnesota again, or did you have a stop on the way? What brought you back to Minnesota?
Well, there was a pivotal point. I was on tour in China, and we got done with the gig in Shenzhen, and they got us a hotel, and it was on the 78th floor. And I remember going up the elevator, and I went out, and then they had a big bay window, and it looked out over the water, and all these saipans and these Chinese ships are coming and going. And I just finally did one of these. It's like, you're just a farm boy from Minnesota. Look at you all the way out here in China. And like, what a cool experience this is. And it was at that point, my whole paradigm just kind of shifted. I did very well at this game of backing up other people and getting to a band, living in Hawaii, and I'm touring all over the world. And I thought, this is so cool, but now I need another challenge. And that other challenge was to step up and start my own band and tour around and have my own business and basically, run my own ship and not just be the subject or at the whims of other people. I'm like, this will be my vision, and I could take this as far as I want. And at that point, it really switched. And at that time, I was also developing a relationship with my now wife, a girl I went to grade school with. And that was kind of kindling up itself. And I thought, all this is kind of coming together. I'm going to take everything I learned from the 10 years from moving away from Minnesota and bring that back to Minnesota, start a band. And if this relationship with this woman works, all the better. And I got to say, I'm 2 for 2. I knocked them both out of the park.
Hey, I was going to ask what's her name that moved you back here, but I didn't know if it'd be you left someone behind to move back here or you followed someone here. I didn't know how to. I was afraid how that was going to work out there. I didn't want to say anything. Now, I remember when I saw you at Chanhassen this last winter, you kind of birthed the idea of the whole Folsom prison thing you were starting, how you were kind of kicking that around back. Now you got it going. Mm-hmm. Where you're not Church of Cash, you're Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three, and you got Cat Perkins there and some other characters playing in. Is this kind of another dream come true for you? Yeah, another task you wanted to start and do?
When I was in high school and even in grade school, I was in choirs. I was a choir nerd. I was always singing, and I've also, was in musicals too. And I really enjoyed them. I had a lot of fun getting up there and acting and doing musical numbers. Obviously, I didn't do any of that for many, many years since after college. Even in college, I did some operettas. I studied classical voice in college and quit college to go into rock and roll. But it's been many, many years since I've done anything like this. And my partner, his name is Tom Pickard. He's a famous guy in the scene. He runs a lot of venues. He runs 2 venues. La Music Room in St. Michael, Minnesota, and also Pioneer Place. Pioneer on 5th Street in St. Cloud. And he's a well-known guy. He does a lot of production for the Fabulous Armadillos. And, he's been a guy in the scene a long time. When I would play his venue, he would sometimes say to me, he's like, Jay, we got to write this thing called the Folsom Prison Experience. And I thought, man, the premise of it just sounded amazing. But I was too busy touring. I'm touring all over the world. He's has his 2 venues. He's doing production. It was more like a dream, and we were just too busy. Well, then COVID came around, and then the government shut down my business. The government shut down Tom's business, and we gave each other a call. Said, "This is our opportunity to do this. We're pretty much grounded, can't do anything. We got time." So over the period of like 3 months, we did a lot of research at home. I read books, did a lot of research online, put together a lot of the historical points of the day, and we got together at a little bar near his house in Champlin, like a little diner bar, and it was the only thing that was open, and we could sit there, and we spent 4 or 5 hours at a time just writing and writing and writing. And after 3 months, we thought we had it, and we just started developing it over at one of his venues. And long story short, we're probably about 37, 38 shows in. We're probably 25 revisions of the script at this point, but it's such an entertaining endeavor right now. People are loving it. Johnny Cash fans, you don't even need to be a Johnny Cash fan, because the songs are great and the story holds up. There's a nice arc, if you will. There's a love story with Johnny and June. There's the warden there that everybody hates. Johnny's got his own troubles he's going through. He's got his own prison of his of past addiction, and things he was confronting around that time. I really tried to get into Johnny Cash's head and try to convey that through the script. We did a lot of shows at this point. We just got off road. Not even last week, we did a show in Lincoln, Nebraska, and in Rochester, and we have a lot more shows coming up. But I can't brag about this show enough. It's highly entertaining. We got some heavy duty talent on stage, and the script and the music is phenomenal.
Now, is it like an interactive thing where the crowd is the prisoners? Is that the kind of way you treat it when you do the show?
Yeah, as you can see on this graphic here, it says, "Unleash the inmate within and experience the legendary Cash show at Folsom Prison." And not only are you experiencing it, you are in the show. We have the audience members come in. As soon as you come in the door, it is now 1968, and you're in the custody of the warden at this point. We have guards that welcome you in. They have guards that walk up and down the aisles. When the warden comes out, he's already addressing the inmates. And you can't help but just feel like you are there in 1968. You get that visceral feeling of, this warden is awful and we hate him. You'll get a little granny in the corner and it goes, "Up yours, warden." People really get into it. It's quite fun.
Yeah, I remember years ago going to like the Tony and Tina's wedding and stuff like that. That interactive plays, that type of thing. That's gonna be sounds fun. Sounds very fun. I know trying to line up things like to go to the Burnsville show. That's kind of when me and my wife have kind of been eyeballing to go to that location. Now, who else do you have in it? You said you got Cat Perkins plays June.
Mm-hmm.
And then is it the rest of your band plays the other Tennessee Three? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the rest of the Church of Cash, they play the Tennessee Three, doing what we do on stage with Church of Cash, of course. But they're more role players than the Church of Cash. Now,
just
people say, what's the difference between Church of Cash and Folsom Prison? Well, if anybody's seen my Church of Cash show, I'm very interactive with the audience, but it's right now, and I'm not a kind of an Elvis Presley guy, and I don't go, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash," and pretend that way. I come from a guy that is a fan, and I appreciate what he has done, and I could talk about it in that perspective, that I'm a fan and we're here to share his music together and let's celebrate together. Now, the Folsom Prison, I try to talk like Johnny Cash and do my thing as Johnny Cash. So it's a little bit of a different deal. Of course, we have Cat Perkins, and she absolutely slays it as June Carter. The coolest thing is I'm not a tall guy. I'm average, 5'9.5". I'm as average height as it gets. Cat is nice and short, so he gets that real nice Johnny and June dynamic. So I'm pretty lucky with that, and her hair is nice raven black, and it's dark like June's was. And then some of the other talent we have on stage is the Hitchville, 3 guys from the Hitchville band from here in the cities, and they're just a fantastic group, and they play the part as the as who are they? The Statler brothers. Sorry, the Statler brothers, and man, these guys are just phenomenal. Just high end musicians, and they absolutely kill it. And then also we have other actors on stage. We have the actor that plays the warden, an actor that plays the MC of the night, and then a guard, and they all have real bit parts. And we also have Zach. His Nick or his stage name is Papa Bear, and he's a well-known guy in town. And Bronson Bergson is just this killer guitar player, and he plays a bunch of roles in the play also. So, without giving too much of the script away, we got a lot of talent on stage, and the story reflects a lot of what happened to Johnny Cash that night, and we have a lot of fun with it.
It sounds like it'd be a real blast. Now, you've done the Johnny stuff, you've done this. You've released a couple of your own songs now also. You've kind of dabbled into your own stuff. Did you use the same band again with you on that one?
No, this is a totally different endeavor.
Okay.
If I go way back in the 90s, I was putting out records. Just generally, this is the ebb and flow. Now I've been in the industry for close to 30 years. In the 90s, people were more into original music. People were more apt to go to a bar and try to find a band like, they do their own music. And that was kind of the scene back in those days. And I was playing a lot of original music. And that probably even went in through the mid 2000s, but that generally just kind of fell out of favor more towards the cover / tribute artist. And about 15 years ago, when I made this decision to do Church of Cash, I love doing this thing, but I'm also an artist myself. I have to create my own art. But I wanted to create art with the music, with the money I made from art. So over the years, the business grew, and then the money got better and better, where I had enough money saved up where I wanted to do this record, and I wanted to do it in a Nashville style, which meant, going down there, finding a songwriter, finding a producer, and do it the Nashville way. I mean, I've done it my own way. I've done, I don't know how many records I'm on, 20, 25 records. But I wanted to do this the way Nashville cats do it and get that experience. And I tell you what, it's one of the most fulfilling musical experiences I've ever had. Now, I consider myself a good performer, a pretty good businessman, but as a songwriter, I'm a little bit mediocre. I could write a decent song, but not one of those songs like a Billy Joel song that just, the words just resonate for 1,000 years. I tell you what, I went down to the studio and I met David Ray Stevens, and he became famous for writing with some country folks, but most recently he's one of Jelly Roll's main songwriters, and he co-wrote that song Save Me, which is an absolute huge song right now for like the third time. It's like the third time it went to #1.
Yep.
So that has his imprint all over it. I met him for the first time. We sat down, we chatted for maybe 10 minutes, and then he got his guitar. He's like, "Well, you want to get started?" I said, "Yes." This guy gets right down to business, and I thought that was great. And just to kind of tell a quick story of how it went down. He sat down and he asked me, "Do you have any songs you pre-wrote for this song?" And I said, "Well, I got some ideas, but I thought we kind of just work back and forth and do this organically." He says, "Okay, well, how'd you grow up?" I said, "Well, I grew up in rural Minnesota, a farm boy. I drove a lot of motorcycles. I had a couple brothers, lived on a farm." And he picked up his guitar and he just kind of closed his eyes for a second. And then he goes, "The first time I rode that bike, I swear I almost died." And I was like, boom. There's something about a great country song. You write 10 words and it tells a 6-page story.
Yep.
And that's the kind of stuff that it just blows my mind. And I just knew that this was going to be such a fun experience. And I tell you, it's some of the best. We co-wrote for about 2 days. We did 5 songs a day. We just were just mad writing. And it was such a great experience. I don't know if I can ever afford doing another record down in Nashville. It was quite expensive. But in the end, I've been on this musical journey for so long, for 30 years now. For me to try something different and do something that I haven't done before and experience something new in the musical industry, I was just floored, and I had such a great time doing it. And I would suggest it to any budding musician that, like, okay, I want to do something in this world, and I want to go for it. I say, man, I'm not going to dissuade you from doing the Nashville thing, because there's something magical about that town.
I noticed you said earlier you kind of like the hard rock heavy metal when you were younger. Our show mostly has a lot of 80s hair bands we cover, but like I said, everybody likes Johnny Cash. Mm-hmm. Do you ever find yourself wanting to do okay, then they had the American series Johnny did where he did Hurt. He covered that song Hurt, which was a rock song. He covered it. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard a rock song you want to kind of cover it yourself, the country version, like maybe a ballad, and do it?
That's funny you say that. Band? The next Church of Cash record is going to be just that. We have how many records? I got 3 records where we just do all Johnny Cash. Mm-hmm. And of course, all the hits are on them. Yep. And I guess I can go on infinitum just covering Johnny Cash's music, but realistically, 3 records kind of does the trick. And I thought, well, at this point in my career, people already know we're a Johnny Cash tribute show. We already got 3 records. Like, what can we do that's different, that is attention getting, and it's just going to be super fun for us and use our creative abilities? So right now, we're in the van, we're doing long tours and whatever. We sit and we plan and we talk about different cover songs we want to do it in a Johnny Cash style, of course. Kind of like how Johnny did Hurt, and he did One by U2 and Depeche Mode and Neil Diamond, and he did a whole bunch of great
Eagles,
covers on
Tom Petty. They all helped on the album. Yeah,
absolutely. And I thought, well, what if we kind of went with that mentality and just kind of continued Johnny's trajectory, what he did with those records, and that could be something that people could talk about, and people would think it's fun. They get to hear their favorite song done in a Johnny Cash way, and it could be newsworthy. People could be talking about this. I thought this would be a lot of fun. So it's going to take a little more work than just listening to Johnny Cash and kind of redoing what he did, which is fine. It takes a bit of talent to do that too, but this is the next mile of listening to a song and stripping it down like Johnny Cash did. How do you strip down the Hurt song? If you really heard the original of that song, you can't. It's hard to bend your mind to figure out how Johnny Cash came up with his version of it, hearing all these crazy keyboards and distorted guitars and really out there kind of stuff to distill it down to the Johnny Cash version. It almost bends the mind, but that's what I'm going to have to do to make this next record. It's going to be a little bit of time. I think we're going to start recording it in January. But I have no real timeline, so we'll just keep on knocking that down. But I think within a year and a half, I'll probably have that record out. But it's another thing on the horizon I'm looking for.
And you say that you take the rock band ballads, and a lot of those did get pretty acoustic. And as you say, that one song you have to put on there now, Jay, no pressure, but Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison.
Wow.
You got to admit, that would be a good one to put down to Johnny. That's just a suggestion for the old suggestion box. Write that one down.
Maybe some White Snake.
I'll do one better. I'll grab a guitar right now, and we can do it on the spot.
Yeah.
Are you guys talking each other? I'll grab a guitar real quick.
We'll hold on. Yep.
Okay.
We'll hold on.
Yeah, it sounds like, Andy, that Nashville deal was a bucket list at Jay's is what it sounds like. That was a true bucket list thing that he was able to do.
You got to do it once.
Get it done. So fun.
That would be kind of fun. And just you're bumping into the right guys there, and you get stuff done.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Now
that's how
we have to ask him. He's back now, but Jay, do you do a lot of? I know you do, of course, the popular Johnny Cash songs, but do you wish you could do a whole album on just various deep tracks with your own, or songs of his, but deep tracks that are the popular ones? Just wanted to throw that out there.
My last record I did was called Flowers for June. And since the first 2 records, I had a lot of hits, and even some of the lesser known hits, but many of them on that record in particular, I went deep diving, and I have at least 3 songs on there. Unless you're a huge Johnny Cash fan, you wouldn't know them, but I love the songs.
Yes.
All right.
So I have dipped my toes in that a little bit. And since I'm going to be in this band forever, who's to say if I'm not going to do that record? I'm sure that,
Exactly.
I could just go deep diving, or another idea would just be do it straight early Johnny Cash when they didn't have a drummer, when it was just the Tennessee 2, and do 1958 style, and maybe go down to Sun Studios and do it down there. Have fun with it.
A guy today showed how Johnny played the guitar with a dollar bill or a playing card in the guitar to get the drum sound in there. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, it gets a kind of a snare sound.
Yep.
And that's kind of how he did it. Every rose has its thorn. There you go.
There it is.
Just like every night has its dawn. Just like every cowboy sings a sad song.
There you go.
Johnny's rolling in his grave right now, man. You made me do it.
Lots of suggestions, lots of ideas.
We're gonna get an email from Brett Michaels now wanting to cut on that. So sorry.
Oh my goodness. Maybe he wants to charge me.
Maybe some Van Halen. It's a lot of the potentials out there. I mean, it's unreal.
Absolutely. We got this list that goes on and on and on. It's going to be hard to pare it down to a dozen songs.
That's what you guys got to do, like a YouTube thing, and just play, just sit around and just do those, like a lot of bands did during COVID. Just do a YouTube show and just do a bunch of jams yourselves.
I think that is part of the plan. When I start into the process of it, I think I'll just get my camera going and then do some Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
And just kind of ask the fans, like, hey, do you like this one? Or does it not sound quite right? Or does it not feel like a Johnny Cash thing? And, get the will of the people. That's one thing I love about nowadays, and with the technology keeping up, and especially as a guy back in the day, we had to pull over to use a payphone to call the club to tell them that we're late. Like, those days are long gone. Now where I could just be in front of my cell phone and play song for the audience, and they could tell me if it sucks or it doesn't.
Yep. Do it for 6 months. Top 10 songs go on the album. There you go.
Absolutely.
Well, Jay, I thank you for your time. We've had a blast here tonight having you on. You got Church of Cash. You can see them around. You can look up Jay Ernest, his stuff on Spotify. He's got a couple songs out there. And, of course, the Folsom Prism dates coming up. We share a lot of those on our Facebook page also. You can follow Jay and all them on social media. And you got to see him. If not Church of Cash, go see the Folsom thing. This sounds like a blast. Looking forward to seeing you in Burnsville.
It's an absolute fun show. Great for the whole family. I suggest you dress like inmates. Dress in all orange or put the denims on. We'll give you the sticker that has the numbers.
Stripes on my shoulders, right?
What's
stripes
that?
Stripes on my shoulders.
Just like straps on your shoulders. Nice.
Yeah, I did my homework today. All right.
Is that at the Ames Theater?
Yes,
it is.
Ames Theater. It's very nice theater. It's modern. Seats about 1,000 people. We sold it out last couple of years. It'll sell out. And we got a lot of fans in the area. And I didn't release tickets until last week. So it's just starting to hum right now. So I'm very excited to see the numbers roll in.
All right.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your show, Jay. I've not been to one of your shows. Andy's been to the Church of Cash before, but they all sound awesome. But thanks for being on the show, Jay. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. I got seats for you guys reserved already for Ames Center. So you guys could both got you plus ones. So come on out and enjoy yourselves. Okay.
All right. We appreciate it.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for your time, Jay. Once again, Jay Ernest. Thank you.
Thank you.